Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Asphalian's webinar, EU Pediatric Investigation Plan, Applications and Procedures. Before starting, just a couple of things to take into account. The webinar will last approximately 30 minutes. In case you have any questions, please submit them in the chat and we will answer them later per email. We will also be sending you the presentation as well as the link to the recording. And now, it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Irene Urecho, Scientific and Regulatory Affairs Officer. Irene has a degree in biomedicine and a master in drug research and commercialization. She has experience in biomedical research, regulatory strategy, and scientific writing in drug development. In today's webinar, Irene will provide a thorough understanding of the requirements of pediatric applications within the European Union. Our colleague Elisa will talk briefly about Asphalian's development writing services. Elisa, please.
Thank you very much, Maika. Good afternoon to you all. So it is my pleasure to briefly introduce the services that we offer from our unit, that is Drug Development and Scientific Writing Unit. So in Asphalion, we are able to support you with a wide range of tailored solutions for your scientific and regulatory needs throughout the drug development process, from the initial stages to the market and also post-marketing activities. So we are able to cover for all the type of products such as biologics, generics, ATMPs, new chemicals, small and large molecule, etc. Also, we cover all the type of therapeutic indications such as oncology, immunology, CNS, respiratory, rare diseases, among others. And we are able to support with all the regulatory regions. We are more focused in the EMA, MHRA, and also national competent authorities and the FDA, but also we have capabilities to support you in other agencies around the world. So we are also totally flexible to adapt to the project's needs, offering or single projects or ad hoc consulting or continuous collaboration for along the projects. And well, on here we are presenting some example of our services, and we can elaborate, for example, regulatory roadmaps, regulatory strategy assessment, feasibility assessment, gap analysis. We are also able to support you with the ATMP classification, early interactions with the regulatory authorities, such as the ITF of the Interact meetings, also to prepare for the orphan drug designation, to support you in scientific advice, the preparation of the IMPD, IV, the preparation of the IND, and also, as today are covering today, for the pediatric investigational plans, either for the United States and also for Europe. So we also are able to prepare GMO submission, ATMP certification, price designation. Then later on, concerning the preparation of the dossier, we are able to support you for all the type of marketing authorization and legal basis with pre-submission meetings with the regulatory authorities, risk management plans, environmental risk assessment, all the writing of the modules 2 to 5. And then later on, during the agency responses, to prepare the justification, also to all dossier convert to ACTD and the updates, application for line extensions of indication or variation, support also with the referrals. So as you can see, we offer a really wide range of different services. We always thank you so much for being today here and for trusting in Asphalion. And now I will pass the floor to my colleague Irene, who will present the training focused in the pediatric investigational plans, preparation and procedure. Thank you very much. Irene, whenever you want.
Thank you, Maika. Thank you, Elisa, for the introduction. Welcome to today's webinar. As my colleagues have already explained, this webinar is focused on pediatric investigation plan, applications and procedures in the European Union. As we can see in the slide, we are going to start with a brief overview of what is a pediatric investigation plan. We also are going to explain the legislation that regulates them. Then we are going to talk about the PIP life cycle, the preparation, submissions, and all the following steps after agreement. We're going to talk also about how to present the PIP through the IRIS platform, then practical tips to increase the chances of PIP approval, And we are going to discuss what to consider when preparing PIPs for specific types or classes of medicines. At the end, we're going to talk about take-home messages. Basically, we are going to summarize all the important points. So let's start with the PIP definition. As you may already know, a pediatric investigation plan set out a program for the development of medicine in the pediatric population. The PIP will be submitted and will be evaluated by the PTCO. The PTCO is a scientific committee from the EMA that is responsible for supporting the development of medicines in the pediatric population. As stated in the regulation, the submission of the PIP needs to be no later than the completion of the adult PK studies. If the PIP are completed, then the applicant will receive an award, a reward that it will be 6 months SPC extension or more market exclusivity for orphan products, 2 additional years. As we can see in the slide, the PIP application consists of 3 main parts. First, we need to complete the IRIS application in the IRIS platform, and then we need to upload 2 different documents. First, the scientific document, and then the key element form document. So first, we're going to explain the IRIS application info. In this platform, we need to complete all the administrative and product information. Later on, we explain this in detail. Then we have the scientific document. In the scientific document, we need to present an overview of the disease, including current methods of diagnosis, prevention, and treatment. Then we need to talk about the target population and explain what potential significant therapeutic benefit the product under development has. Then we need to explain all the available CMC, non-clinical, and clinical data that our product has already. And then we need to propose the strategy for the PIP. This, for example, depends on the situation, but the applicant could propose additional studies in children or maybe a pediatric formulation. Then we have the key document. Here we detail the proposed measures for the quality, non-clinical, and clinical studies, and also modeling and simulation analysis. It's important to note, and that's why I put it in this red square, that currently in IRIS there is a section that where you need to put the same information as the KEF. Our recommendation is just write, please refer to KEF instead of repeating it. In addition to know what is a PIP, we need to understand 2 more concepts, the concept of deferral and the concept of waivers. The first, Article 20 of the Pediatric Regulation allows the applicants to make a request for a deferral of the initiation or the completion of some or all the measure in relation to timing of the marketing authorization application submission. This allows the applicant, for example, to delay the development in children after the sponsor has enough information of the safety and efficacy of the product in adults. In this case, the PIP will include details of the future pediatric studies and their timelines. Another important concept are the waivers. The waivers apply when a development of a medicine in children is not needed or is not appropriate. We have different kinds of waivers. We have product-specific waivers that could be partial or could be full. A full waivers cover all the 5 pediatric subsets, and you can receive a waiver if your drug is unsafe or ineffective in children, if the drug has lack of benefit for children, or if the disease or the condition only affects to adults. We also have class waivers, but we will see this later on. So, in the context of pediatric legislation in the European Union, we need to refer to Regulation 1901/2006 and Regulation 1902/2006. The Article 7.1 states that all the applications for marketing authorization for new medicines have to include the results of studies as described in an agreed PIP, unless, as we have explained, the medicine is exempt because of a deferral or a waiver. In Article 8, these requirements also applies to marketing authorization holders that wants to add a new indication, a new pharmaceutical form, or a new route of administration. Article 7 and Article 8 of the regulation also state which products does not need to have a PIP. This is the case of the generic, hybrid, biosimilar products, also products that want to be submitted through a well-established use, homeopathic products, and herbal medicinal products. Perfect. Now we are going to continue with the PIP life cycle. And we are going to explain the assessment procedure for the PIP. As we can see in the diagram, the first step will be the IRIS submission of the PIP. Then we have the validation, where the PDCO will check that everything is fine in terms of administrative terms. Then we have an evaluation. This evaluation have two discussions with the PDCO. Day 30, day 60, followed by two more, day 90 and day 120. First, at day 30, the applicant will receive a summary report. In this summary report, we can already see the first impressions of the PDCO from our PIP. Then, at day 60, the applicant will receive a positive opinion or a request for a modification. If it's the case of a request of a modification, the applicant needs to resubmit the PIP with the applicable changes or justifications required. Then the evaluation continues. On day 90, we receive another summary report, and on day 120, the positive or negative opinion. In case a positive opinion is received, then the last step will be to receive the EMA decision. Here we have another diagram that explains more general the overview of pediatric development. The first part of the diagram is what we already have explained, that the preparation of the PIP, the evaluation, validation, and agreement. We wanted to note that the applicant can withdraw a PIP during validation or during evaluation, but it's important to note that under the current regulation, some administrative fees can be charged to the applicant. Changes during the development are normal, and we can make PIP modifications of the agreed PIP. The important thing is that if we want to receive the marketing authorization application, we need to have a compliance check. Here, the authorities checks that everything is according to the PIP that we already agree. If we have been granted with deferrals after the marketing authorization application, we need to submit annual reports. In this slide, I wanted to highlight that if we want to submit a PIP through IRIS, it needs to be according to the PDCO calendars. And the PDCO calendars depends on the PDCO plenary meetings. I have put here in the slide a link to check the deadlines in case. Now we're going to talk about the IRIS platform and how to submit it. First, we have already mentioned this, but for applying an initial PIP, we need the IRIS platform. But not only for initial PIP, also for modifications of an agreed PIP, for a product-specific waiver, for a compliance check, for an annual report, confirmation of a class waiver, and if we want to discontinue the pediatric development. But before submitting in IRIS, we need to complete some previous steps that I wanted to highlight here. Our organization needs to be registered in SPOR. Our substance needs to be registered in SMS. We need to have an EMA custodian account, and we need to request the RPA. When we have all of this, we can continue with the IRIS submission. Here in the slide, we can see a screenshot of the IRIS platform and all the sections that we need to complete. The first one, we need to complete, we have information on an ongoing orphan designation, we need to put it here, also the RPI. In the next sections, we need to put information on of the product and also on the pipeline. Then we will have a section to put information about the legal basis, and also if we have completed a scientific advice with a national authority or with the FDA, we need to explain everything here. In the next section, we need to write about the scope, the proposed medicinal condition, and we have completed the PK studies in adults. Later, in the next section, we need to complete the medical condition, the pediatric subsets, and finally, in the last one, information about the medicinal product itself, ingredients, route administration, and so on. It's important to note that the EMA has recently updated two of the templates of the documents that I have already explained. One of them is the template for the scientific document. In the new version, we have an abbreviation list, and we have a section called application details, where the applicant and the EMA can introduce administrative information. And this is important. Now we have full sections inside the template for the PDCO and EMA discussion. Before, they were in annexes. Another template that have been updated is the KEF template. For a short period of time, all the information that we put in the KEF was put only directly in IRIS, but now we have this template available again. It's important to know that in addition, two new templates have been issued. The first one that is called a template for the applicant's response to PDCO request for supplementary information and modification of proposed PIP following clock stop. And the second one that is called template for submission of additional information requested to the applicant following PDCO discussions. Now we move on to talk about practical tips to increase the chance of PIP approval. First of all, it is recommended to schedule pre-submission meeting. This is a recommendation particularly for sponsors that are developing advanced therapy medicinal products. Also, PDCO always prefers early PIPs. Late submissions, later than the completion of the adult PK studies, must be justified. We always say that the later the PIP, the less happy the PDCO will be. It's important to initiate the preliminary steps required for the IRIS submission as early as possible. Also, we recommend to start filling the IRIS submission early because you can maintain it as a draft. Also, it is useful to consult the IRIS guide for applicants because it has extended guidance in how to submit through IRIS, including PIPs. And I have put here the link in the slide. Also, this is very important. When drafting a PIP, it's important to search for PIPs already approved by the PDCO for your condition or maybe an active substance that is similar, as PDCO is consistent with its decision regarding age subsets. More recommendations. We recommend they create a PIP matrix early in process because it's important to streamline your strategy and also it takes time. If the product has a pediatric indication, then it's very important to promptly validate the PIP. It's recommended to be realistic when scheduled studies, so they are aligned with the deferrals that are granted. As I said before, changes during development are normal. It's important to update the PIP through PIP modifications so we can facilitate a smooth compliance check. It should be noted that low prevalence of pediatric subset is not always sufficient to receive a waiver from the PDCO. In the case that the applicant needs to have a study that share pediatrics and adults, we know that the PDCO requires a minimum number of pediatric patients to be established. Also, a recommendation, it is necessary to work with update templates, so please check the EMA website regularly. And for PIPs of orphan diseases, it's important to be careful when approaching sample size and number of patients per pediatric subset, as recruitment challenges are common for rare and ultra-rare diseases. Okay, let's move on. Now we are going to talk about what to consider when preparing PIPs for specific types of medicines. So the first thing to do is to check if our product has a class waiver. What is a class waiver? EMA has a list of class waivers. If the medicine is in this list, they don't require to have a PIP. The last list is from 2 of June of 2025, and I have put the link here. We also need to check if there is a standard pediatric investigation plan. These standard PIPs are developed by the PDCO. And if you complete the principle and the binding elements, it will be easy to receive a PIP approval. The conditions that have standard PIPs are tetanus diphtheria vaccines, allergen extras for immunotherapy, acute myeloid leukemia, and rhabdomyosarcoma. What would you see if you open a standard PIP? It will include non-clinical requirements, clinical requirements, an overview of a standard study to be proposed with the type of study, the study design, main objectives, study population, duration, and primary endpoints. And it also will include how to express the data for the evaluation. To conclude, I'm going to review all the important things that we have learned in this webinar. So first of all, the definition of PIP. We know now that PIP sets out a program for the development of a medicine in the pediatric population. Now we know that there are 2 articles in the pediatric regulations that are important. This article established that new medicinal products, in order to receive the marketing authorization application, we need to include the result of an agreed PIP. And the Article 8 extends these requirements to new indication, new pharmaceutical forms, or new administration routes. We have reviewed that the initial PIP procedure takes more or less 9 months from submission to the decision. It's important that the applicant use updated templates, and it's important that the PIP, once the PIP is approved, that we receive a compliance check. We have talked that we need to use, is mandatory now to use the IRIS platform, and it's important to complete all the previous steps in order to submit through IRIS that we have already explained. We have explained in detail all the practical tips gathered from experience, and that improves the changes of PIP approval. And this is important when preparing PIPs for a specific medicine. Check for first class waivers, then standard PIPs, and then prior PDCO opinions. And please follow the recommendations. So here concludes the webinar. I hope you find it useful and interesting, and thank you very much.